All right, everyone, it is 6:30, so you're gonna go ahead and get started. Like our first thing is gonna be our.
Call to order.
I don't have an agenda, I mean, it might be,
Office.
but yeah, he's gonna do it.
Everybody.
Hello, we're starting.
All right.
Eva, you're between Tim and Rick, back at the very back. John, you're next to Jesse.
Good to see you.
Good lord.
Ariel's on board? Yeah, right. That's right.
Hi.
Mine?
Yeah.
All right, well, I thought we had to do that.
There's.
Hi, Jerry.
Right.
Hello, I'm John. Hi, John.
Okay.
Hello, hello.
Don't have.
Alright, we're gonna pull through.
Oh, and you remembered the cookies?
I did. Know what they say, music soothes the savage beast, but I think here in South Wichita, it's cookies, so.
Sweets.
Yeah. Well, I'm on a lit diet, so it's been a while for me, so.
You don't. Yeah.
Well, I think, Mike, you got us called to order, right?
I'm ready, if you are. All right, call the order, and first order of business is a oath of office.
That is correct. So if you all want to hold up your right hand and repeat after me.
Ariel, if you can get on camera for this part.
Yes.
Might not hear you.
Oh, got it, there we go.
You're going to hold up your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jesse Whitcomb,
Solemnly swear
Solemnly swear.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of the District 3 Advisory Board
of the District Advisory Board
for the City of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
for the city of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
If you all want to sign the form at your table, I will collect it.
Both of them.
Yes. Thank you very much.
yeah.
It's a second.
Just a second.
This is the second, right?
Yes,
It is, yeah, it is April 2nd, yes.
He didn't dare swear saying yes.
Yeah.
You get both sheets or repeat one?
I get both.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you got a full end up.
Thank you.
You want?
Thank you. I'm Paul.
Back to the movie trail.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Thank you. You all haven't tuned into a city council meeting recently. Paul Leaker is our new city clerk.
Thank you, yeah.
He's got good endurance, I mean, he made a 6-hour meeting the other day.
Yeah. But they fed me lunch, so that was very nice of you, so
Yeah.
thank you.
We're working our way into the 10-hour meetings, really gonna test your stamina there.
I'm ready for it.
Are you guys training for the Olympics?
Might as well, I mean, one of our big budget items now is the nurse that has to come in and turn us halfway through so we don't get bed sores.
I see you finally were out late.
Right.
Okay. Thank you all. Next order of business is approval of agenda. I need a motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay. Need approval for the minutes for March 5th, 2025. Any motion?
I will approve minutes from.
You were not at, you were at the meeting, but that's a weird one. You were
Oh,
not,
I
you
wasn't-
were not a DAB member at
I
the
wasn't a
time.
DAB member.
Yeah.
I was there.
I think you technically are abstained for that.
Can I make
Okay, somebody else to make the motion?
Yeah, you need a motion of someone who was present as a DAB member.
Oh, you want,
Jerry moved.
okay, motion made, second,
Okay.
all right, thank you. So those in favor say aye,
Aye.
opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Oops.
We're on to staff reports, and before we go to the fire department, if you're gonna speak to the public agenda, you do have a 5-minute limit. We're not real strict on it, but we like to. Fire department.
Yes, sir.
Again,
Is there one right here?
you gotta go up there,
We're
and show
focused,
up
you
the
don't have to
straight
turn
line.
around.
We wheeled this a whole 10 feet.
Oh my goodness, all right, well, I won't take up too much of your time. My name's Captain Hypens. I'm stationed over here at 22s, also in hydraulic. I've just got just a little bit of information to pass on. In that Creek area. Anytime of January, let me sure I get my dates right. January 19th. February 19th. That month, that's the information I have. There were 11 structure fires in our area, excuse me. So they were, one was an apartment fire, which is under investigation. One was another apartment fire, the tree is arson now. Another one was a building fire, is accidental. House fire, which is still undetermined while being investigated. House fire, another house fire. Triplex fire, the building fire, house fire, shed fire, and the house fire. And I can't speak directly on all of these because I didn't make them. Let's see, what else? Some other interesting information. We are currently in the process of running 22 candidates through our recruit class. So, that's exciting. That's it's quite a few. That'll be good. We spent quite a bit of time out there training, so looks like a good group.
How many are women?
What's that?
How many are women?
I don't know. It's a good question. Good question. I don't have, I just have 21.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. So, we're also in the process of getting 11 new fire engines and 1 truck. See, make sure I don't want to shortchange you. Well, that's it. There's some other stuff in here. A lot of work.
Questions from the dead?
What's that?
I'm asking if they had any questions for you.
Anybody heard these fires?
Not that I recall.
You said 3 of them were probably arson,
I don't believe I said 3.
then 1 was for sure, and 2 under investigation.
The only thing I have is investigation and 1. 2, excuse me.
Anybody else? Any questions from the public? Richard?
And then 21 recruits, roughly, how many make it on through it?
Well, I can tell you, I told you 21 and we started 23. It's a pretty tough process.
Yeah.
I expect the best to make it through.
Yeah,
No different than the police academy.
Yeah.
It's for, oh, no. It's a long, oh gosh.
No, I played with my.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's a good one. Fire stuff. Easy.
Do the men have to do the same standards as the women?
There is one standard.
With one standard.
Yes, there's only one standard. That you have to meet it or. Yes, that's. Yep, I do. There's only one standard.
Good to know.
Any other question? Anything else to add? You have
Oh,
any?
fantastic.
I'm sorry?
You guys have a fantastic evening.
You too, and I hope all the safety for you guys, and thanks you guys for everything that you do.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, police department, they're gonna go viral or they're gonna go natural?
There is the two officers here doing their staff reports, so you can either call up Patrol East or Patrol South first, or let them pick. And then there will be a presentation under the new business item for my.
We'll take the good looking
Oh.
one.
Yeah.
Who's gonna make the report to the police?
He's got the big report.
So you want me just to talk about what I was.
That'll be under the new business
Okay,
item,
so-
so this is just staff reports, so it's either.
Do you have the staff? So I guess I could try to,
The bump,
bump,
go ahead, bump.
yeah, go ahead.
So do your stuff.
Yeah, you're good looking.
That's a bigger compliment than I've ever gotten from my.
I've never seen you without a beard, so I can't justify.
But there's a reason the beard's here, Mike.
Here we go.
Okay, so I'm Officer Parmesan, Wichita Police Department's being policing. I got 23 and 25B, which District 3 covers most of 23 and some of 25. What I'm gonna talk about is the risk training model. Captain and Prime is gonna explain more what's going on in that area. Basically, we're gonna focus more on places and not people. For example, today we had a special assignment at the 800 block of South Topeka, where we went out there. We had a lot of officers in the area. We were focusing on places. For example, we focused on boarded houses. We went around looking around to see if the house is still boarded up or not. If it isn't, then we would contact the MABCD and let them know, hey, this house is unboarded. Can you come and refix it? Because the places, according to the risk terrain, is places then draws attention to some of the people where crime is more committed. So we focus on that. We focus on graffitis. So we have a lot of police present there where we are letting the area know that, hey, we can have a lot of police present there, and maybe that would help out on the crime reduction. So that's what the risk training monitoring. We're still new at it, but that's what we were doing today, and we're probably gonna do another assignment on Friday in that area again also. So, other than that, the recruit class for Wichita Police Department, we will have a new recruit class in July.
I have the stats.
Get the stat, okay,
Yeah.
what the captain talk about that?
Yeah. So if you guys are interested in the stats, currently we have a class that's ongoing right now. We'll have another class that will start up in July. Currently we have 20 males, 7 females. That's 3 Asians, that's 2 males, 1 female, 2 African-American recruits, both male, 12 Caucasian, 9 males, 3 females, 1 Native American male, and 9 Hispanic recruits, 6 males, 3 females. So part of our diversity and diversifying our, wanting our employees to look like our community is a big push with Chief Sullivan. And so I think we're definitely on the right path with that. So that gives you just a little bit about that. I don't have any specific stats for Patrol East, but I will talk extensively about more on the risk training modeling and stuff during new business.
Well, in general terms, is crime up or down?
So right now, it kind of depends on what area you're talking about. So if we're talking about where DAB 3 is, which I'm going to talk exclusively about Hilltop, and that general area. And if you're not familiar with that, that's really about from Harry north all the way to about Lincoln. And Lincoln is about the big one. And then from Oliver over to about Hillside. I mean, those are just generalized. And I'm going to talk specifically about gun violence. And I'm going to talk about, the gun crime is actually down across the entire city compared to last year and over the last 5 years. But again, if we talk about larcenies or maybe stolen autos, that may be higher because if you haven't seen the news about the Hyundais and the Kias that get stolen on a regular basis, there's been upticks in certain things. So, but one of our main priorities is obviously gun violence. And so we're heavily focused on that because that affects everybody. But we recognize that larcenies and theft and vandalism are also concerning to all citizens as well. So
Also, a Broward corridor It's also doing the hotel motel area, also they've been doing that for quite some time and we've seen a little bit of reduction in crime in that hotel motel area. So they are on bikes. Now it's summertime, so they're gonna be on bikes out there. That's part of the risk terrain that we have in our area that they're doing an assignment on, so.
I noticed the motorcycle patrol was out.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
we'll see more of that because as we get more of the sand cleared up off the street from the winter, you're gonna see more of our motorcycle unit out.
Has anybody got any questions from the board?
I was looking at the statistics on LexisNexis. Particularly pertaining to car thefts, and it looks like it's dropped quite a bit from February
It
to
has.
March.
it
I
has-
assume that's just because people aren't leaving their cars running to warm them up.
That's one of the factors. Jack is one of our crime analysts with the Wichita Police Department, so it's Jack Spickelmeyer. So I brought him along to support me when I get up and talk. So Jack, you want to answer that a little better for me?
Yeah, so it has been dropping citywide for the past probably like 3-ish months at this point. There's a couple reasons why that's happening. Obviously, we had the Kia Hyundai theft increase, and so from where that increase happened earlier, that's dropping off compared to what it was earlier. So that's been going down. Another big part of it is a property crime reduction task force that was recently started. And so they are exclusively focusing on property crime, specifically shoplifting and auto theft. And so they've really been doing a lot of work to kind of focus on that. And so that's another reason we've seen a pretty significant decrease since they started working in October of last year.
Has there been a specific program around the Kias and Hyundais with the local dealerships to install that change that they had? I believe both of those manufacturers have issued some kind of fix for that issue. Are we working with the dealerships to make sure that they get that information out?
Yes, so a lot of that comes through the dealership where they're sending out information to the actual specific owners. It's incumbent upon the owners to then go get that fixed. I mean, if they choose or they don't go do it, then we can't force them to do it. So, and then for a while there, we were even handing out like the old club, if you remember that. I mean, so we were, handing some of those out just to give the people. Yeah, it's incredible how they're able to get into the car and do that with just that little USB chip thing or whatever. But again, some of that's been corrected through the business. But again, we can only do so much with public, awareness and Kia and Hyundai have to be able to kind of step up on that part.
Always helpful when TikTok and YouTube show people.
Well, exactly, yeah. So.
Anybody else have questions from the board? Anybody have questions from the public? Richard?
I've seen an uptick in people walking on a 4-lane road. There's a sidewalk on each side of the street. What can be done about that? Because especially at nighttime, they're wearing dark clothes. And I've seen a couple of them almost get hit, but it seems like I'm seeing it more and more instead of walking on the sidewalk at night, especially at night. Even in the daytime, traffic's heavy and they're walking down the side of the road. Some of them get out.
But there's a city ordinance for not walking on the sidewalk. We could issue a ticket for that if we see it doing it. If it's unsafe, hopefully they have common sense not to walk on the street in the middle of the night when they're not wearing.
You're hoping a lot there.
But we see that, we do issue citation for not using the sidewalk.
Yeah.
There's a sidewalk present.
I'd like to see it crack down a little bit on that because I've seen a big uptick in that. And where the sidewalk's on this side of the road and they're walking in the road over here because there's no sidewalk. And I think that.
I myself, have seen and tell them to walk on the sidewalk and, officer, we can let the officers know, hey, if you see anybody walking the street, let them know. You pass by, what area are you talking about it's happening?
Mainly along Hydraulic, south of Pawnee. I've seen it on Broadway. And I've seen it on Washington, quite a bit on Washington, south of Mount Vernon, well, actually south of Harry. But they just walk down the side of the road and there's sidewalks and I could see it if cars were parked over the sidewalk, but they're not. It's clear sidewalk. And,
We can educate, we go out there and educate some of those people.
yeah.
That's best we can do. Hopefully,
I hate to tie up an officer's time for that, but then when one of them gets hit, ties up a lot of time and it might not necessarily be the guy that hit him at fault, because I've seen him pure black outfit and I've been right on him and hey, this ain't right, so.
Anybody else have questions from the public? Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
Yeah, I'm just curious, do your special assignments, are they going to address prostitution and drug dealing at all? We live in the 1,000 block of South Broadway, so we're right by where you're talking about running those special assignments, and those are issues that we see.
a special assignment includes everything that we focus on. Okay, prostitution, graffiti, everything that that involve crimes. So, like, we try to make a presence there so that if they're doing these crime activity, that they would stop. And that's why we're out there, because that's what the places, okay, the places where they are doing these crimes is what we're trying to focus on. And we focus on that when to the statistics, when they come out here and they talk about it, is we're trying to put more police present in places that it's happening. So
How often do the special assignments happen? Is this like a couple of times a week or? Once a month?
I'm sorry, I'll answer all those questions for you.
Okay.
New business, yeah,
So-
sorry.
But we do on Broadway, we do have the Broadway corridor and they work Monday through Friday, or Tuesday through Friday every week. And they're there from 11 to 9 and they are constantly up and down Broadway. They address drugs, prostitution, everything. They've made a great impact on that area. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot to go, but they are there all the time. So just so you know that. Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
all right.
My favorite part, Wichita Public Library.
A lot on my list, but I'll try to kind of shorten it up because they added a lot of it's really specific events on there. The remodeled Maya Angelou Northeast Branch and Westlake Branch libraries both reopened back in March, and then the Rockville Branch Library closed for interior remodeling right when it was opened. The two renovated branches feature expanded space, more meeting rooms, and remodeled interiors. While not all furniture and artwork for the renovated branches has arrived, the Wichita Public Library has been excited to welcome back customers eager to return home to their branch, and grand reopening events for both will take place in May with more to come. While the Rockville Branch Library is closed, the Angela Branch will expand service hours to best serve residents of East Wichita. Rockville is anticipated to reopen fall 2025. The updated hours at Angela are Monday through Thursday 10 to 8, Friday through Saturday 10 to 6, and Sunday 1 to 5, closed Sundays Memorial Day through Labor Day. April 6th through 12th is National Library Week. To celebrate, WPL merch will be available at the used bookstore located on the first floor of the Advanced Learning Library. Come support your local library, a love of reading, lifelong learning, and community connection. And on Friday, March 14th, the WPL kicked off the 2025 NEA Big Read with 5 performances from community members and the life passages read aloud from this year's book, Sitting Free, The View from My Ordinary, Resilient, Disabled Body by Rebecca Tausig. The 6-week program continues into April with events running until April 26th. Some of the highlights include Big Read Progress and Possibilities, accessibility in Wichita, and that'll be Tuesday, April 8th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Kansas Leadership Center. And the Big Read keynote with the author will be Saturday at April 12th, 6 to 7 at the Advanced Learning Library at 711 West 2nd. For more event details, please visit bigreadwichita.org and free copies of some events while supplies last. In the spirit of Earth Month, the library is partnering with the City of Wichita's Public Works and Utilities Department for a series of events in April. Thursday, April 3rd, so tomorrow at 1:30, the Evergreen Community Center and Library will host Save Wichita Water and Money, an interactive presentation and Q&A session with Public Works staff on Wichita's water conservation efforts. Learn about the City Rebate Program as well as other best practices for saving water and money out and beyond. Thursday, April 10th at 1:30 p.m., Public Works staff will host Worms Up and 3-2 Composting in Wichita, a composting workshop at the Atwater Neighborhood Resource Center. Learn different ways you can reduce your food waste at home and waste of the food compost for your garden and other plants. Additionally, on Saturday, April 19th at 2 p.m., the Advanced Learning Library will host a Dock and Talk, Glennis First Screen and Pop Times in the Heartland, a documentary about the impacts of climate change in Kansas. And this will be followed by a discussion Q&A with Ethan Kershaw, Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Wichita's Department of Public Works and Utilities. On Monday, April 22nd at 1:30 p.m., the Evergreen Community Center and Library will host Be Air Aware, Monitoring Air Quality in Wichita, a discussion on ways you can stay up to date on local air quality and reduce your exposure and contribution to Poor Air Quality Days. For a full list of library events, please visit wichitalibrary.org/events. And for Walters updates, we will continue to host family story time every Tuesday in April from 11:30 to 12. Nitty Grit is still meeting every Wednesday in the Walters meeting room from 11 to 1. And all levels of knitters, crocheters, and other needle arts are welcome to come and learn. On Saturday, April 5th, so this coming Saturday, Walters will be hosting a board game afternoon from 12:30 to 2:30. The drop-in event for all ages where we will have family-friendly games such as Scrabble, Trouble, Yahtzee, Sorry, and more. Feel free also to bring your own board games to share as well. We will also be having a DIY tiny bookshelf craft for teens aged 12 through 18 on April 12th, which is a Saturday from 1 to 2. Make a miniature bookshelf complete with tiny books tucked inside an Altoid tin. Stay tuned next month in May for updates on summer program.
Anybody from the board got a question? Yeah, I have one.
Yes.
In your opening remarks, artwork for the renovated branches, is that local, famous, amateur?
It is local, yes.
So it's something worth hopping in and seeing what it's like. Oh, thank you. Any questions from the public?
Yep.
No?
Yep.
Good.
I was looking for a book and went to the library this week and it was not available at any of the Wichita Public Libraries. Can you access other cities and counties and bring books in from them?
Yes, we can. It is called an interlibrary loan when you do that. You just have to, you can do it online or you can talk to staff. And if it's not available in Wichita, we will search our WorldShare system to see the nearest library that has it. And basically the way that works is we'll ask the nearest library if they will loan it to our patron or not. If not, we'll go to the next nearest library and the next nearest until we can get it loaned, and typically those loans we'll have for a month.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
You have any pinnacle players or something?
Any pinochle players?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. But I mean, maybe.
I'll be there on Saturday.
Anybody else have questions? I guess no, thank you.
Thank you.
Wichita Parks and Recreation, congratulations on your promotion.
New director. He was interim director for about a half a year or so, and he recently got the top job. So again, congratulations, Reggie.
Well, thanks for having me out. Just want to give an overview of some of the things that are happening here in specifically in District 3, and then talk about some other things that are happening throughout the city. So the first one is Clap Park. We're finishing up construction on the dog park as well as the playground. It's anticipated to be finished by the end of May. The hard work is already in place there on site, and the trail work that was done on site has already been completed as well. So we're looking forward to having that available for the community to start enjoying probably at the beginning of June. Cessna Park, the basketball court there is being replaced and we're completing that by the end of May as well. So part of what we do every year is we look at, do inspections of all of our inventory of our course throughout the system. And it's one of the ones that is up for having that replaced as well as putting in new goals and things on the site. So that would be a deal that starting in June as well. I'm not sure if you guys have heard that there are some plans for a new community center here in Plainview. So we just finished up the RFP process for the design services that were out that ended on the 28th of March. And we'll start evaluating those and start moving forward. That is leading the project with that. And it anticipates we'll begin the actual construction sometime in 2026. So we're excited about that. We're located right across from where the neighborhood resource center is by Colvin Elementary in the area near where the tennis courts are located. So we'll be convenient for the community. We're partnering with the school district even more with some of the services we're able to provide. Keep kids doing some positive things. So some of the other things that we're doing during the summer now, our aquatics programs are planning for opening up our swimming pools. We do have free swim lessons that we have available through a partnership with American Red Cross. So that is open now that you can actually go online to wichita.gov/aquatics. And we will have the pools opening up on May the 26th. And then the splash pads will be planning to open up in the middle of May timeframe. And you can look online and see all the specifics on those dates and times as well. So we've had a really good hiring season so far for our lifeguards. At this point, we're about over 50% to hire all the staff that we need, which is a big improvement. So we have some troubles with that. We're finding young people on staff. One of the things we did a little bit different this year, we partnered with USD 259. And we're able to use their facilities for some of the indoor pools. So we've been able to train throughout the year to start preparing early so that we're not waiting until the busy season. We have to compete against everyone else. We get a head start. So that's worked out really well for us. Our athletic team is currently open right now and doing a lot of our youth programming. We have scholarships that are available to help with young people who are looking to participate in some of those programs as well. Our T-ball program is active right now, and we do that over the fourth in our Miracle Field. And we also have our co-ed men and women in the church league that are open right now as well for people to actually register for those programs. And the next big thing that we have is our open streets that will be happening up at WSU in the Shocker neighborhood on Sunday, April 13th. That's similar to the ones that we do over at Normal. That's the one down in Douglas later in the year. And it will be closing down 2 miles from 17th Street up to Oliver and Wilson. And we'll have cars and entertainment. Well, cars won't be in the area, but it'll be active space where it's closed down for people to actually walk and back through there. Have food trucks and vendors that are there on site, and a great opportunity for you to get out and learn and people in the area. And finally, our Golf Wichita. We're having our junior golf day on April the 12th at Texas Harbor from 1 to 5. That's a free event that we actually offer to get exposure for young people to learn the game of golf. And a lot of people don't know that we have a junior golf program this year that anyone that's under the age of 18 can actually sign up and go and play on any of our courses for free. So we have young people in the community that's interested in learning how to play golf. You can register and go out and participate in any of our 4 courses that we have. So just a general overview of some of the things specifically in District 3, and then some of the things we're doing throughout the city as well. And I did want to recap, and I know PD is here. One of the big things we just finished up with is Fan Fest that was here for the NCAA tournament. I had a really great turnout down in Napshire Park in that area. I would anticipate over the 3-day time frame we had there, probably over 15,000 people that came through in that area. And to my knowledge, there weren't any incidents that we had that required a lot of any police support. And it was a really good opportunity to showcase Wichita and a lot of things that we do in the area. And hopefully moving forward was to have other big events like that. Consider Wichita. I'll start for any questions you guys.
Questions from the board? Oh, go ahead.
So I know a few years ago, there were several pools that were closed, if I recall. Right? How many remain, or do you have that number available?
We have 6 pools that will be open. We probably referred to a few years back, we transitioned some of the pools over to splash pads in certain neighborhoods. And part of that, we got a new one here in Plainview, that will be opening back up this summer as well. We have 6 of them that are here and throughout the city that are here that we have available for.
Thank you.
So on splash pads, yay. Linwood, I see kids in there all the time. So, you know, the Linwood splash pad is an amazing place. Michael. I have asked about this many, many moons.
Well, welcome, John. I appreciate you being here today.
The dog park down at Chapin. Is that city or is that county?
That's city, and
It is
he's gotten your emails too, so.
I continue to ask for more rock. Just around the entryway, around the water, because around the water, it's all dug out. The drain for the water does not work. It's probably completely covered. So there's no drainage, so it just goes out around the concrete pad there. And then the dogs, of course, walk around there and it's created just a giant mud hole. And then anything we can do as far as pre-emergent for the stickers. Because even today, great job last year, they sprayed and it really helped. If we get ahead of it this year, it would be even better. But still, anytime I walk my dog around the perimeter, she gets, 2 or 3 stickers. Every single.
And we're familiar with that, and I've been talking with Councilman Hohauser, and our team have been intensive about going to look at that space to see what we can do for it. One of the challenges we have is with the elevation that's there for it, it retains water, like you mentioned. So we're looking at this creative ways that we can make sure that we do that with rocks is something that we're considering for it as well. So that is something we're aware of, and we're working to see how we can make sure it's
Right, that white, it looked to me like the same rock they use for chip seal on the streets. That rock worked really great because the water can pass through it, and yet you've still got a relatively dry surface to walk on. So more of that would be awesome.
That's true. We'll take that into consideration as we're looking at.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board? Go ahead.
I have 2 questions. First one about artwork. There's gonna be lights on any of that? Is that illuminated?
I will have to double check and see on that. Our arts and culture services is one that kind of take the lead on that particular one, but I can find out and make sure I get that back to you.
I just went over there and took a picture there, so Mike, it's beautiful. My second one, the Wichita flag. You don't sell those license plates for motorcycles. Is there any way we can get that incorporated? I know lots of people buy, they're beautiful and they'd all like to have.
I would definitely take that to the park foundation. We were talking about ways that we can get it out in the community, and we would love to see if that's an avenue that there's a need for it, that we're open to.
2,000 on the playroom. Kind of quick. Thank you.
Anybody got questions from the public? Richard?
Now that you brought it up, Platt Park, where you come in off of, what is that, Bluff? Where they put the new parking lot in and everything. Been asked if you guys could get a park bench down in along that driveway somewhere. The teachers have to smoke off ground, they go over there to smoke. That's the real problem, but I told them I'd throw it out there, so.
That's the first I've heard of that particular one. I know that we've gotten some requests for the actual disc golf course itself along the trail, that we can have some benches that are there.
Yeah.
We're looking at some options for that, but I'm not sure we're encouraging people to come and smoke in the park.
They sit down, there's a lot of people that walk in the evening time. And they'll walk over and they'll sit on that concrete because it drops off. So they can sit there on that concrete. And I've seen that several times at night in the evening time.
Well, welcome to South Wichita.
Two questions for you.
Walk over there every night.
Yeah.
One has to do with the pools. How is the water conservation gonna be affected, or how is the pools gonna respond to the water conservation?
So one of the things that we do, that we are a bit busy this off season, we're working with going in and sealing and caulking and repainting the bases of a lot of the pools to prepare for this season. Once the pools are filled, we don't really have as much of a challenge with water conservation areas, more so making sure that we don't have pools that are leaking. And we're addressing that, and we've been working on that with our public workers and contractors to make sure that they're in great shape for this we do.
The other is on the dog parks. I am a dog advocate, an animal advocate, and I look at several cities. And dog parks are a dumping zone for people who have puppies or they just don't want their dogs. We have somebody patrolling in case dogs end up being dumped at Platt Park. I live 3 houses from there. I don't want to volunteer to be patrol.
We don't specifically have anyone in the park department, but because we do have a really good relationship with that's there on site, they are going to be kind of the location where when there's things that need to be reported or incidents in the park, our contacts on site out on the park. So when things like that happen, they will reach out to us or either to animal control to make sure it's really addressed.
As an advocate and as a very active dog park user, I mean, I'm at the dog park just about every day. When a puppy or a dog is dropped off, there are regulars that go to the dog parks. I mean, and I've called in at least 3 in the last year to animal control, and we let them know and they come out and they pick up the.
But you realize we don't want them at animal control by being an advocate because animal control is euthanizing after 3 days.
Is that true?
If they're not.
No, the 3-day is what they call the youth list, but then it goes up and it's actually been expanded to 5 days now, I believe. That's not when they get euthanized. That's when we try and get them to another shelter, another rescue, or the Humane Society. So it's mislabeled, I guess, for what you would call it. Now, there are certain restrictions that we are facing that's come down from the state level. And that's what's led to most of the euthanasias that we see. The Kansas Department of Agriculture has ruled now. It's been on the books for years, but they're interpreting it differently for about the last year now, to where it makes it pretty much impossible for us to move any animals that are sick, any animals that maybe have kennel cough or suspicion of it, to a rescue or to another vet or anything like that. So that's led to a number of them having to essentially make the tough calls because we are running up on kennel space. So it is unfortunate. It's something we've tried to get the Kansas Department of Agriculture to reclassify. We have not had any support or momentum there, and from what I'm talking to animal control, it doesn't seem like we're going to get any support on that ruling anytime soon.
Send me the information like you got my email. I'll work on that. That'll be my new policy.
Okay, go get them. I'll
That's
send
right.
that to you.
Anybody else? I've got a question real quick. Not that it's the only park like that, but keep in mind that Clap, 97 acres, has a lot of room for fox, birds of prey, and little puppies look just like squirrels. So it could be that it's being self-contained with violence of its own, but so I don't know if I haven't seen anything bad, but there have been a lot of
Snatch
fox.
Chihuahua. I got a Chihuahua at home.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Along that, I have a fox that comes through my yard fairly regularly. And I actually have a video, or had a video, it's aged out now, on my Ring doorbell over my driveway of a cat chasing the fox. So foxes are very timid. They are not generally known for.
Yeah, but if they get hungry, they change.
Yeah, but there's plenty of Taco Bell leftovers down in the fence. One other thing on the parking lot on Bluff next to the school, if I remember correctly, and if you've been down there, the south entry is labeled as the enter, has the arrow pointing in. All of the parking spaces are lined so the north side should be
back in.
It's, the parking lot's not finished yet, but understanding that it's gonna be a shared parking lot essentially with the school. Child safety comes first, and that way you back into the spots before school's out.
There's nothing that I was like, that just seems.
Yeah, it's confusing, and we're gonna get the signage up, and this will be, the rest of the year is gonna be kind of a trial process to see how well this works. and if we have to redesign some things or alter some things for next year, but it's, you know, you guys live in the neighborhood there and, you got two lanes that are, you got the street there in front of the school and then two other blocks and it's a safety hazard, so we're trying to do the best we can to address two separate issues at once.
I would have loved to have seen that parking lot be about twice as big as it is.
I agree. We were trying to work with the school board on some additional funding. They weren't forthcoming, and then after that, we found out the financial straits they're in, so that hurt with that. But it was trying to fit it into the budget that we had for Black Park. So, yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Randy.
We're on the public agenda. Number 5, nobody was scheduled. Number 6 is off agenda items. If anyone wants to speak on any subject that they would like to bring up. If you don't have anybody, you're coming. I'm gonna say one thing. I'm not blaming Mike. Go
I
ahead.
love how this starts.
I cornered him in a quick trip. When the railroad crossings become more smooth and easier to drive on in the streets, we've got to do something. We've got to find money. I mean, you drive over, it used to be railroad tracks were the worst thing in the world for your car. Now you just sail across that, and the next thing you know, you hit a big pothole. Please find some money somewhere for the streets.
No, I mean, the money for the streets are coming. This was a really bad year for potholes, a really bad winter. And just like anything else, if you see them, report them. We're really good at getting out and filling the potholes.
And I'm aware the railroad takes care of the crossings.
Yeah, the railroad
But maybe you
companies.
need to learn how to do it.
I've said this before, working with the railroad companies is like working with the mob. It really is, and we see that with the 29th and Grove spill,
Yeah.
no accountability there. We've tried to work with, trying to make sure that they get off, you know, you can't stop for more than 5 minutes or impede traffic more than 5 minutes. We try and work, and again, these laws go back to the 1860s. During the Civil War, they gave the railroad company so much power to be able to move troops around the country. And the railroad barons, you know, they kept those rules in there and we are still paying for that 150 plus years later. So, I can get you Jerry Moran's number. I can get you Marshall's number.
Anybody else got anything they want to say? Okay, then we're on to new business. Number 7, risk terrain management. Let's do applaud first.
You get the applause I usually.
Is it all right if I don't use the podium? All right. So my name is Chad Beard. I am the captain of Patrol East. So Patrol East is located over at 5215 East Lincoln. It's the new station that we just had built behind Southeast High School. So also here with me is Jack Spickelmeyer. He's one of our crime analysts for the Wichita Police Department. We have a total of 5, correct? Yeah. Also here is Officer Phil Berger. He's with Community Policing Team for Patrol East. Officer Trish Teedy with Patrol South CP Team, and Officer Paul Machon with Patrol South CP as well. So,
He demoted me.
oh, what did I say?
Officer.
Oh, shit, sorry, sorry. Sorry. So,
Like I said, south of Kellogg.
yeah, so, okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay, yeah. So what I want to talk to you about a little bit today and is about risk terrain model. So Officer Walmatron talked about it just a little bit. What we're doing in each bureau has their own unique strategy that comes with this. So risk terrain modeling is actually a method that was put together by All right.
Me next
Okay,
slide.
that's all right. I'll say slide. So, all right, so it's actually a method that is actually put together with a computer program. And so it will take a look at the different crime that you want to put into it. So we are going to be specifically focused on gun-related violence. You can then apply this same method or technology to other types of crimes, but we're really going to be focused on gun crimes. In the past, now we have seen a reduction over the past 5 years of gun violence, but we're going to talk about very specific areas within the Patrol East Bureau and even in Patrol South where they've identified their location. And you're going to see how high gun crime can really be in one little small area. So it looks at and it applies all the different risks that might be associated with certain types of crimes. And so we're again focused on gun crimes. And so it's going to take a look and it goes over the entire bureau. So my entire bureau is about 40 square miles in size. And the software takes a look at all those gun crimes. And gun crime is anytime a firearm is used, whether it's pointed at somebody or fired, whether somebody got hit or somebody didn't get hit. It just does not include any BB guns or pellet guns or the gel guns or any of that other stuff. So we're looking at strictly firearms. And on this, we also did not include domestic violence. Now, you may question us why that, but we wanted to look at a bigger scope to involve more of the public with this. We recognize that there's always going to unfortunately be domestic violence related cases that may involve a firearm. We don't want that to show that that's driving that specific violence within that one area or like at a specific house. Because what we're going to talk about is that these are all based on places. We're not focused on a certain race or a person or anything like that. These are factors that are built in based on locations and how those risks increase your likelihood of being involved in a gun-related crime. So you can see that there's different things that will be applied to it. There's over 40 different things that can be applied. And we just gave a little example or whatever. Bars, vacant properties, parks, convenience stores, hotels, all those things go across the entire, it's applied towards the entire bureau. So again, what it makes a difference is that we're looking at the totality of these risks that may be affecting that specific crime. So when you have just hotspot policing, you may just get, oh, there was a robbery that occurred here. We had shots fired. We had, and it's not, it can't give you really a long-term examination of what we're wanting to look at and what's causing the gun violence in this area. And a part of what our team will do is we'll start to focus on those places to see if there's something that we can do different, whether it's community-based, whether it's with enforcement, code enforcement, MABCD, whether it's law enforcement. We're going to look at all those different options to see if there's something that we can do to mitigate that risk and to lower gun violence within that specific area. So, and we're looking at it more long-term. So, next one. So we've identified this area, and if you're not familiar with it, this is essentially the Hilltop neighborhood within the Patrol East Bureau. So again, you'll see on the north end there, we actually go past Lincoln, we're up to Gilbert, and then we come back down to about Harry Street. And then it shoots way over past Oliver. It includes Pinecrest over to where the new station is kind of located. So within this specific area, over the last 6 months, up until February, we had over 18 different gun-related violent crimes that occurred within that specific location. And you may think, well, that's not too bad compared to all the other, but then when you start to shrink it down, that this is only 0.42 square miles within that little area there. So then you start looking at that and you drop it down some more. Within that, just that area there, it's 42.86 more likely that you're going to be involved in a gun crime.
So it's a lot more concentrated in the
Correct.
area.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get that.
Yeah, so the entirety of East Bureau, which is when we ran these models, we ran it for each police bureau, and that's kind of the area that we chose. And so each bureau has its own model. And so in Patrol East, it's about 40, 41, 42 square miles, right? This area itself is 0.42 square miles, so it's about 1% of the total area for the East Bureau. And if you basically take that area and the number of gun crimes that occurred in there, we get a number where it's 42.86 gun crime per square mile. And I believe, I didn't put it up here, but I believe Patrol East itself is around something like 3 or 4 gun crime per square mile when you take the Bureau in its entirety. And so what we end up with is basically an area that has 750% higher rate of gun crime, you know, for that area, meaning it's much more concentrated than the rest of the Bureau. So that's what that bottom number is. And so I guess we have a map and we'll talk a little bit later about how the risk works and where the risk comes from. But basically, using this model, we can determine the risk of gun crime in this area is 717% higher than the average for the Bureau. And so I can talk a little bit about how that works, but basically this is an area that's both much more risky and has a much higher concentration of gun crime than the Bureau at large.
So thanks, Jack. So with that, that's why we're focusing on these areas. So each bureau has different locations or different RTM zones that we're looking at. And so obviously that makes sense. You're going to look at multiple locations. And so this was the highest one for Patrol East. Patrol South looked at all theirs. I assume that you guys picked the most highest concentration of gun violence, which is South Broadway. And so they're going to focus in on that area. Now, I know that there's other areas within Patrol East. I know that there's Plainview. We also have an area by Hunter and Cottonwood, if you're familiar, that show a higher rate of incidents. Next one. So this is the entire bureau. So this kind of gives you an idea. We want it all in green. But you can see where our red zones are, where it just shows a proliferation of higher gun crimes that are occurring within the bureau itself. And so within these geographical locations. And so when you look at this, the thing on the side here, it's 2.5 off the standard deviation, which, you know, you have your standard and then it's 2.5% off of that you're going up. Is that correct, Jack?
Yeah. So basically what we're seeing here is a hotspot. It's not necessarily gun crime itself, what we're seeing, but it's the risk of gun crime based on the risk factors in the area. So most of these areas are also, in addition to this, they are hotspots for gun crime because the model itself is using that gun crime data as a way to generate risk. Yeah, what?
When you keep talking about guns, when you're in the process of capturing somebody that used it, you have a way of finding out how they got the gun? Did they buy it legally? Did they come up from Mexico? Did somebody steal it from somebody's car? You know how they got the gun and they got it back.
Yeah, you can talk.
Okay, so that's actually the more of the investigative part of this. So yes, our gang unit, our gang felony assault section, we also have a tool called, we have the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, which we have an operation here where we use NIBIN, which is the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network, which is where we take the cartridge casings from different crime scenes and crime guns, and then we compare them, and then we're able to match up those guns to certain crimes. And yes, we do e-trace with that. We're able to trace the guns back to the original purchaser. That's the only thing. There's no national database for firearms. So the only thing we can do is go back to the original purchaser, and that could be back in 1999 or whatever. It'll show us the original purchaser. But a lot of times what we're able to do is if it's a quick time to crime, like if a person just purchased a gun from Shields 2 weeks ago, and then that gun was then used in a crime, we can start tracking back. Well, how did that person buy it, and how did it end up in the hands of the felon that got caught with it? So we definitely look at that, and that's more of the. I want to say that's beyond what we're looking at here with this, but it is being done. I want to be clear on that. That is part of what the investigations division does.
Thank you.
Quick reminder,
Yeah.
we are gonna hold questions to the end. Part of that is process for Robert Rules of Order, but also I can't capture your minutes right now, so.
Okay, questions?
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to go to the next one. Okay, so this kind of shows you, so when we applied all the different risks and all across the entire bureau, the number one thing that within 300 feet you are 9.4% more, or 9.4 times more likely to be involved in a gun-related crime if you're within 300 feet of a gas station. Most, if not all, of our violent offenses are occurring around gas stations within the Patrol East Bureau. And then we also apply the other ones. So we have bars. If you guys are familiar with Patrol East, we have bars everywhere. We have Onyx. We have different nightclubs that are all across the Patrol East. Phone stores, MABCD violations. So that's a house that has all kinds of violations. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that, where we're actively working on. And then multiplex. We also looked at where overdoses were occurring because we recognize that the fentanyl epidemic with that is a part of this. And then self-storage. So again, this is not to say we are going to go shut down Phillips 66 at the corner store at, you know, Harry and Oliver. That's not the point of this or whatever. But we recognize that there are more gun crimes occur around these gas stations. So what do we need to do? What do we need to do that's different to look at maybe reducing gun violence within that bureau? Does that mean, you know, do all the people come there after the clubs close? Well, yes, that's what happens a lot of times. Our Quick Trip at Pawnee and Oliver, everybody comes there after they close down Old Town for some reason, and everybody hangs out. And then we have shots fired. And so, yes, we are actively working on that. We're working with Quick Trip and different businesses and everything to try to work on that. But in the RTM zone, we've also identified our top 10 places that have the most response for violent crime. So I'm not saying that just because you live in the 1000 block of South Terrace that you commit gun crimes or whatever. But we recognize that that's where more of that crime is occurring. And so we're going to put more focus on that. So can we go to the next slide? So what we'll be doing is, and one of the things that we're doing with our officers is we've identified the times and the locations of where these gun violence is most likely to occur. And a lot of times it's in the evening. And so we are dispatching, 911 is actually going to send an officer to that location, even just to sit there for 15 minutes. And it's amazing just the amount of just having a presence for 15 minutes in one little area can reduce gun violence. And I'll show you some other stats from some of the other cities, but KCMO did that and dropped their gun violence by almost 40%. But we're going beyond that by utilizing our CP officers to look at, okay, what kind of MABCD violations do we have? Let's get with them and find out, okay, this house has been abandoned for 6 months. Let's get on that. Let's try to step that up. We are looking at, homes that don't have Evergy accounts. Don't have water accounts. Is there an abandoned lot? Does the grass need to be cut? Can we bring in the Parks and Rec guys to clean something up that wasn't there before? So we're looking at several things that are the factors to try to lower that. So it does involve some enforcement, and we're gonna do some enforcement. So one of those things is to obviously reduce gun violence. Reported crimes within that area. I can't tell you, and we don't want to come up with a number like we want to drop it 25%, because what happens if I drop it 24.5%? Is that a failure? No, it's still, we reduce gun violence. So we want to reduce it significantly, and that's what our goal is. But, and then obviously we want to try to improve the quality of life and then reduce the fear of crime within the neighborhoods. Okay. So you guys all know Hilltop is very large. It does have its issues. It has the ongoing problems that have always been there. But we're going to make a real good effort, in my opinion. And I've got the officers excited about it. And I wanted to come share that with you guys today so that you kind of know what our plan is moving forward. And this is about a 90-day operation. So again, we focus on the places, not just people or whatnot. So I've made it very clear to my officers that this is not, oh, grandma just pulled out of her drive and she didn't turn her signal on. We're going to stop that car right now. No, we are wanting to stay focused on, obviously there's guys that are acting suspicious. There's going to be people that officers are going to recognize, but we're also looking at what is driving that, whether it's a house, and if that house is abandoned or whatever. We're going to work with that to see if we can get that shut, because you may have criminal elements hanging around that abandoned house because it's abandoned. And so we want to try to fix the abandoned house to stop the criminal element from being around there. So, so there will be some proactive enforcement. We're going to do a lot of code enforcement. We'll do a lot of foot patrol. And what we're also looking at, we're handing out flyers. We're gonna go through and we're gonna audit where the street lights are out, and we're gonna get with Evergy to actually get those back on. And we've already had some luck. We're gonna demolish a house that's over there in the 900 block of South Terrace, hopefully next week. You guys may already know what house I'm talking about, but it's been an eyesore. It's been a problem. It needs to go. And so we have got that. We're on the schedule to get it demolished. And hopefully that will start having all the people hanging around that house. So move to the next one. So this is what I was talking about. We had, and I misspoke, it was 23% in KCMO, but we also had a significant reduction in Glendale, as well as Newark. So we know this works. It's based on data. Again, it's not just hunches. It's not just based on, random information that's just, this is actually data-driven, intelligence-led information that can support that. So I do have some handouts and different things. I figured you guys would have some questions. Each bureau will be different. So Patrol South is going to have their own strategy on how to address it. With me, we have the 911 call. I have my CP guys doing stuff on the back end to work on, trying to get locations shut down or boarded up or corrected. And then we'll have a proactive part of it. I was going to work with probably Reggie, and I was thinking about if we could get a muralist to maybe come and paint the backside of the Friendship Park building with a big mural. Yeah, see if that would be something that we could get done. So there's other things that are going on. So this isn't just an enforcement, take everybody to jail, and that's not what this is. We are trying to make it and this will go for about 90 to 120 days, and then we'll reevaluate to see if we can move to another location or come back, or we need to stay in there for a longer. But I don't want you to feel, okay, you're just doing it for 90 days, then you're all gonna pack up and leave or whatever. Well, no, this is part of an ongoing thing. We want to be able to touch those other areas, but then come back to it. So hopefully I didn't talk too long, but I hopefully kind of gave you some information. So part of our plan as well is to go and meet at the HOA meeting for Hilltop, which will be on the 22nd, I think is when it is. My CP officers, we're going to be handing out flyers to all the businesses around that neighborhood. And I'll show you what that flyer is, and kind of explains what we're doing. And then I got with QuickPrint, but they didn't get it done this week. So I think hopefully by next week, I will have like an index card, and I'll make sure Becca gets those. It'll have a QR code on it. So, and we have that here as well. So if you guys want to take a picture of that, what that does for us is that you can send tips and ask questions. So if you have questions about it, we didn't want to get too off in the weeds of printing something off for you. That's with that, but if you definitely have questions or tips for anything that's going on in that area, send it to the QR code. It comes right to me, comes right to Jack or to one of the other supervisors, and then we can start working on that. So if you have a tip saying, hey, this house over here is a bootleg, you guys need to do something with it. So we're excited about that, and we may have to change stuff. So if you guys come up with something and say, okay, this looks like it's not working or whatever, it's a fluid operation. So it's always something that we can change and modify. So anybody have any questions off the head? I know I gave you a lot of stuff to throw at you there. Yes.
There's 3 over there.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, bittersweet, because I live off of Crestway and Gilbert, so I'm right at the cusp there, but I'm
Yes.
very familiar with
Yeah.
the area. So excited for the presence there in this operation, but I had 2 questions. One with the legend, I see dates, and I apologize if I missed it, but is it like July 10th? Like that's when that was captured, that date, or July since now, or?
Those aren't really too important. It's more for, I guess, my internal tracking of that is the last time I updated that feature layer. And so for some of our features, like for example, overdoses, we go back 1 year.
Okay.
For Evergy, it's going to be all of them that are inactive accounts at the time that they're able to give us that data. And so that's more so for me to keep track, because a lot of these things, like, things change, things move. And so that's more to help me keep track of what's the most recent of those layers. So that's what that's for.
We looked at the last 6 months for gun violence.
Okay.
So that 18 that occurred was from, I'm sorry, I know it's from December to February, or no, sorry.
It'll be 6 months going back from, I think, mid-February.
Yeah.
So we try to get something more recent, and then he's always able to produce a printout for us of all the recent arrests and everything, so we're constantly updating information. So say something does happen over there, we're gonna be immediately responding to that stuff, so.
We're getting it set up so that we can monitor, all the incoming calls, every case that happens out there. We're gonna be trying to pay really close attention to kind of what's happening in the area and, how the police are, doing their activities in the area. And so we can get a good idea of like what's working and what's not.
Right, okay. And then my second question was, remind me how success is gonna be measured, because I'm thinking of like, if you're comparing, like now that it's getting warmer out, there's people maybe out more.
Right.
What's-
Yes, and so part of that was that we wanted to start our RTM right before school got out, because we know it's gonna be busy. And summertime is always gonna be busy. We did a lot of work on the front end to make sure we had everything, so we were planning for that. We didn't wanna, I don't say half-ass it, but get into it in the summer, and be like, oh my God, this is out of control, and we need more support and all this other stuff. So we tried to get all that lined up before, but yes, it's very hard to quantify that, I guess would be the thing. I mean, we have talked about maybe doing a survey, and so maybe with the QR code that we could do that, where we could at least get, some basic questions. We know that a survey a lot of times gets way off the rails or whatever with people. So we try to keep it really focused. So we've talked about that. We're obviously gonna look at the gun violence reduction numbers. I mean, if that's what we didn't want to put a percentage or just a number. But I'm really hopeful that we'll see a number reduction. And again, it's really about your guys' perception living there. And so if you don't mind, I would love to come talk to you afterwards or whatever, and say, hey, how can we make that so that when we're done with the 90 days, how do we get more feedback from people so that we can see if we were successful or not? So
We're just reaching out to the homes that are around those gas stations and bars. I know you can't cover, the whole
Right.
area, but I mean, even a handful of homes.
Yes, yeah. So I mean, I recognize you being right there, the US gas station is active or whatever. And so we are gonna be meeting with them and seeing if they can get on board with us as part of our plan. They may or may not, I don't know. And so then we'll just go forward from there as that. But I'll get your information if that's all right. And that way we can look forward to maybe at the end or whatever, or as we go along, that we can get some more feedback from
Thank you.
Yeah, I can speak to the numbers as far as what we're gonna have in place to measure it is we're really going to look at the area compared to itself, and what we're gonna use is the 5-year average. And so that 5-year average is basically the time frame. So that 90-day period during the year that we're doing, we're gonna look at that same 90-day period going back 5 years, getting the average of the past 5 years and comparing it to this year. And that's gonna be, that's gonna be a big way that we're gonna measure and see, is this area compared to itself in the past, are we at a level that's higher or lower than before? We're also gonna look at some of the other candidate areas that, we only selected one for the project, but you saw the map with all the red spots. Like, we're gonna look at those areas and be like, during the same time frame, are those areas seeing an increase or a decrease as well? And through all that together, hopefully we can definitively say, our activity in the area is making gun crime less prevalent during the time that we're acting, and hopefully after the project is done as well, because, by focusing on some of the environmental things, that should carry over past when, the police present part kind of fades away.
I would also consider home ownership and renting, because you'll see changes with, home ownership too, but especially with renters and what company they may bring or themselves. So that's not something monitored. I consider it.
Was that one of the things that's a layer, is it rentals?
It
It probably wasn't, because that's pretty hard to track. I mean, yeah, so, but that's something we could maybe consider for the next, he says project, but I don't want you to think it's just gonna end after 90 days. We're gonna continue to work on this. And then we'll obviously want to get you guys' feedback. If you guys are saying, hey, this is terrible, we don't like it, then we can go to something else. So, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
You probably said this and I just didn't catch it,
Sure,
so my apologies, but on your kind of definition of what you're using for gun crime, is that
firearm discharges only or brandishing a weapon?
Brandishing a weapon too. So anytime a gun is involved, so that means pointing it at somebody, firing it at somebody. It's really or if somebody gets hit like a bullet to skin shooting, or if a bullet goes past somebody, that's ag assault. So if it just goes past them, so those are the crimes that we're looking at. Nothing, but we're not looking at BB guns and gel blaster guns, and those types of things with them. So we're sticking strictly to gun crimes.
And then my other question was, did you, in looking at incidents that had occurred over the period of time that you're looking at, did you look at DV incidents involving a firearm just to see how that would affect what your data sets look like? Or were you specifically wanting to look at a particular type of gun crime that was that? I was just kind of curious how that might affect what your hotspots look like.
Right, so I think I can answer, maybe Jack can chime in or whatever, but these 18 incidents that occurred just in this area did not include domestic violence related incidents. So we know that it seems to start to skew the numbers a little bit, because you can have, unfortunately, a domestic violence incident that occurs 2 or 3 times in a row, and that can skew your numbers.
Yeah,
But maybe you could explain more, but Jack,
so we've had the software for a while before kind of like doing this project, and like we've had models where that's included before. I think a lot of the reasoning behind leaving those out was because we know that a lot of those are taking place at people's residences. And, maybe that's something we look at in the future, but for now, we don't want to focus on like people themselves or where they're living necessarily. Like, we really want to kind of stick to some of the more environmental things that, we can work on and other city departments can work on. And, domestic violence is very complicated, and kind of a lot of what causes it just goes beyond the environment itself, and so it would be interesting to kind of look at that. And I know there are studies that have used risk terrain modeling, not necessarily from a police perspective, but from other perspectives that have used the same software method and looked at, things like domestic violence or like child abuse and that kind of thing. So maybe if you're interested, that's something that you could look into. But I know that the software has been used for that kind of thing, but yeah, we didn't necessarily just want to focus on people's residences, at least, when we're getting started with this.
That makes sense. Thank you.
yes, sir.
I live in Hilltop Manor,
Okay.
which is right next door, just outside the black line.
Okay.
She made a comment about people that own their houses compared to rental property. My address is also in the 3rd line right there. You showed directly across from Quick Trip on Harry.
Okay.
It's really complicated because I know the police officers go through Boston and they go through Bailey to get to Hilltop. Many times in the past, just officers sitting out in our field has kept them moving around.
Right.
And before, they were sitting behind the AOK pawn shop where they're doing their lunch breaks and everything. And I talked the officers that come just sitting outside there, the phone blew up, what's going on, what's going on? But they kept them away.
Right.
And just with your graph, you've seen there's very low activity over here. 20 feet away, there's multiple gunshots.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys coming through there. I'd like to invite you over to our meeting, which is on the 21st as well.
Okay.
Officer Malloy's been there one time. I've
Okay.
emailed him several times just to keep our members involved, to know what's going on and to look out for what's going on. And I've talked to you at the activity center.
Yes, I'm doing that activity center.
We're all on board, but we got to keep our people engaged.
Yeah, no,
We're
absolutely.
watching out for it.
I want to, we'll do whatever I can to try to improve that or keep it going.
We really appreciate you coming to our meetings. And just last week, we had one of our members calling about an incident on the other side of the fence. There was an empty house that I talked to James Carr about. Go there to look at it. He shut the house down over there, was watching for it just to keep them out of there because we didn't know who else to call. But they call me and I try to come to rescue when I can.
I appreciate that. Like I said, the one thing we're struggling with the department still is manpower. And so, with the property crimes team and some of these other things that have taken effect, I've lost my good people that were assigned to community policing. So I'm down to 3 community policing officers, and I don't have a sergeant in that section. And so, so my Lieutenant Carlson is going to try to pick up that. But again, every bureau is kind of facing that same thing, and so we're all trying to work with what we have. But no, I appreciate you letting us know that, and we'll definitely be at the meeting on the 21st.
And you're always welcome to park in our fields.
All right, that sounds great. Yeah, we'll probably do that, so.
Keep them moving.
So yeah, so one of the things that we're gonna do a lot of foot patrol, bike patrol, we just, we were able to get an ATV, so that, we were able to maneuver a lot more, especially with the ICT streets and all these things. It just makes sense for us to have that. So, we wanna get out there and use that, let the kids climb around on it and all that kind of stuff too. So, pretty excited about, hopefully making this project work. So, definitely want your guys' support. Yep.
I have one more question. We have security over there too. Do you guys ever engage with our security, let them know what's going on?
So I would like to maybe improve that. I know you do have security over there, but having a point of contact would probably be very beneficial.
So I read the security report every morning and he'll state that police were on site or this and that, fire department was there, but there's no information whatsoever. We have no idea what's going on. And I ask questions all the time, so I want to know so we can fix it.
Some stuff we may not be able to share, obviously, you know,
That's
we're
okay.
restricted by law and that kind of stuff. But no, if we can, if whatever we can do to make it more transparent or available to you, then yeah. we'll do
We'd
it.
like to know as a board also what's going on in our community. here.
Absolutely.
If it's one of our residents have an issue, we can address that in another manner without you guys having to be
Yeah,
involved.
no, I mean,
Well,
we'll.
if we
I'll
don't
give
know, we can.
Officer Malloy and make sure that I'll be at the next meeting for you at the, on the
Great.
21st. What
I'll
time
put you on the agenda.
Yeah, what time and where?
At 6 o'clock at the Hilltop Manor Activity Center,
1411.
1411 South. I go to both of them, so I
Yeah.
get confused.
No, I totally get it. So.
I'm in the neighborhood all the time. So,
Also, let's all.
pardon?
Are there any other questions from the board?
Yes, South Oliver.
Oh, yeah, I know where it's at. Okay.
Their main office building.
Yep.
Are there any other questions from the board? Public, Richard?
One thing I would like to see more of,
Huh?
and I know when they're on a call, it's to get there as soon as they can.
Well, right, yeah.
But when they're not on a call, if they drive down these residential streets,
Right.
it's been probably 10 to 12, maybe 15 years ago, down in the 17, 18, 1900 block on South Waco,
Okay.
gangbanger wannabes, and they
Right.
would set a bunch of fires one night and everything. I finally got the officers to drive down.
Yeah.
I said, you don't have to say anything,
Right.
just take your little cruise. I said, you'll go down Main Street, you'll go down Broadway, but you won't go down these side streets.
Yeah.
When they started doing that, not only on Waco, but I saw the crime rate on Palisade go down.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, that,
Just
well,
presence.
yeah, this is the presence, and we're gonna try to encourage that, and hopefully this will get the officers motivated by identifying these locations. That's one of the expectations I have for my officers that are in patrol, that when they're not on a call, that they are doing active patrol. Again, I could tell you, hey, we're stored, there's so many calls, but we encourage our officers to do patrols.
Yeah.
I wish we could have an officer on every street,
Yeah.
and it's just not feasible, but.
I
But
was-
no, I appreciate that, and we'll definitely make sure that.
I was amazed at in fact, the gangbang wannabeers ended up moving out.
There you go.
That
So
one
we-
said, there's too
yeah,
many cops down here.
Displacement is a part of policing or
Yeah.
whatever, so we recognize that. We don't necessarily want it to be displaced, but we know that does occur.
Any other questions from the public?
Yes, ma'am.
I live right in the middle of that hospital.
Okay.
And I was curious, what was the start date of the 90 days?
So it actually started yesterday, April 1st, and we're doing kind of a slow roll with it so that officers kind of know what they're doing. So that started the calls for service. So the 911 actually has a call in there so that they get dispatched. But my expectation moving forward will be to have my different shifts. If we have an extra officer or if there's the availability, is to, hey, go over there for an hour and interact with me, knock on some doors or, do some proactive enforcement. And so we'll look at 90 days from April 1. I think so, yeah, I don't see that.
It'll be in our job.
And then I have some stuff that I can get down as well.
Anybody else? If not, we want to thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, we appreciate your time and appreciate your support for the department. So very excited. If you guys have any questions, if Becca can be the contact and then I can answer them for you or whatever. We can do that.
Thank you.
Well, we respect the heck out of you guys.
I appreciate it. Yep.
Always got our gratitude.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
You can call me. candidates? There's 5 of you.
It's five that we're working towards having 7 places.
So-
It's, we work at the police department, so we just look at the crime data.
Keep up the good work and be safe out there, even in your office.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, let's see where we're at. We're gonna flip 9 and 8. We're gonna go to Wampo. Metropolitan Transportation. Okay.
Yes, thank you for inviting us out tonight. I'm Kim Negrete, and this is Nick Flanders. We're with the Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we have just a very brief presentation. We want to tell you about a new long-range plan that's being worked on, and so we're in the community input phase, so want to bring that to you tonight. So, Wichita Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, we're federally required. It's for urban areas over 50,000, so of course, our region qualifies for that. We cover all of Sedgwick County and a little bit, you can see, of Butler and of Sumner County. We do long range and short range transportation planning. So everything from biking, walking, trains, you name it. So freight. So that's kind of what we cover. Next slide. As I mentioned, we are working on our Metropolitan Transportation Plan for 2050. We have to look quite a ways out, as you understand transportation and all that funding. It needs a long range plan. So we are in actually our round 4 of our public comments. So that's why we're here tonight, to introduce you to the plan, where you can look at it and then provide input or feedback for the plan. So the Metropolitan 2050 sets priorities, as I mentioned, for transportation, including safety. We're looking at reliable travel times, environmental, economic impacts, equitable transportation system to ensure that all neighborhoods and areas are covered, looking at connectivity for all modes of transportation. The MTP 2050 is intended to identify transportation policies, strategies, and projects for the future. Project future demand for transportation infrastructure and services, and focus on the systems level, including highways, city streets, public transit, and infrastructure for bicycling, walking, and running. It contains 7 chapters and 14 appendices. It's about 200 pages long just for the main document. And so Nick is going to quickly run through what those 7 chapters are so that you have an idea of what's in the plan and where you might be able to find the information that you would be interested in looking at.
Next slide. The vision of Metropolitan Transportation Plan 2050 is to enhance connectivity in a way that supports equitable development of a safe, reliable, multimodal transportation network that enriches the quality of place within the Wampo region. This vision is supported by the goal of making things safe and reliable, equitable and accessible, connected and multimodal, and engaging in environmental and financial stewardship. Next slide. Although the 14 appendices are listed here, I will not go through them individually. Suffice, they are a few times longer altogether than the main document is. However, there is also a 20-page executive summary, and that executive summary has a lot of maps and figures and tables. So actual reading in the executive summary is considerably less than 20 pages. Now I'm going to quickly go through the 7 chapters of the main document. Chapter 1, Plan, Purpose, and Development. Pretty self-explanatory. It gives background information on the metropolitan transportation planning process, rules regarding that, background on WAMPO, both as a region and an organization. And it says what we have done so far to develop this over the last few years. Chapter 2, Regional Trends, is a data-driven chapter. It is all about establishing current conditions, past trends, and projected future trends in the region that affect demand for transportation and need for different kinds of transportation projects and services. Chapter 3, Existing Conditions. This is another data-driven chapter all about establishing baseline need and demand, but more so focused on transportation in particular than drivers of transportation demand as was discussed in chapter 2. Chapter 4, System Management. This chapter goes into various strategies that have been used in the region or could potentially be used in the region for managing travel demand and issues stemming from it. Chapter 5, System Performance Report. In this chapter, you will find performance measures. That is to say, data that can be tracked over time in order to measure progress towards various goals. This includes required federal performance measures that all metropolitan planning organizations must track, but it also includes regional performance measures created specifically for the WAMPO region that are not required under federal law. Chapter 6, Financial Plan. The point of this chapter is to demonstrate that MTP 2050 is fiscally constrained, which means it does not plan for more transportation spending than the amount of revenue that is expected to be available during the same planning horizon out to the year 2050. And finally, chapter 7, Project Selection and List. The main thing in this chapter is that this is where you will find a list of specific projects that are accounted for in the fiscal constraint analysis that are, by being in this list, necessarily consistent with the MTP and therefore eligible to be included in our short-range planning document, the Transportation Improvement Program, and considered for funding opportunities going forward. The other thing to note about this chapter is that in that list, we also have what we call category projects, because there are some project types where projects of that type are generally hard to plan decades prior. So it's not all like the North Junction and stuff like that. So for those, we have the category projects, so that projects that fit within those categories are necessarily consistent with the MTP and therefore can get into our short-range plans and be considered for funding without having to be planned decades prior. This includes public transit projects, bicycle and pedestrian improvements, traffic flow and safety improvements, intelligent transportation system projects, and bridge projects. Next slide, please. Now, we are currently in our 30-day public comment period for this plan. It continues through April 7th. That is Monday of next week. all of the draft chapters and appendices and the executive summary, and that executive summary is in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, are all on our website at www.wampo.org/MTP2050. We very strongly urge you and everyone you know and everyone they know and so on and so forth to please, before April 7th, get online and look at this plan and give us your comments on it. Now, we have two main ways that you can do that. One is to use a comment form that we have directly on the website. You write anything in that and get it into us. And although there is fields for name and email address, you do not need to provide that. You can leave those blank and leave it just anonymous if you want. Also, you can submit comments by email to wampo@wampo.org. That should be pretty easy to remember. So please get those comments in by the end. And incidentally, we also at one point had a virtual public meeting. And although that is passed, we have the recording available at the link shown. And also, we had a in-person pub open house last week. And although that too is over the poster boards from that event, we expect to get those online as well. So again, please review it and comment on it by April 7th. And we will go through all of the comments we receive and see what needs to be addressed. And we will make sure to address any comments received before this goes to a vote of our governing body. The final vote of our governing body, the Transportation Policy Body, will be scheduled for May 13th of this year. And before that, it will go to a recommendation from our Technical Advisory Committee on April 28th.
And we did provide a one-page document, and then we do have some executive summaries that are at the back table if you would like one of those as well. So, any questions? Yes.
I have never heard of WAMPO before tonight.
Yeah, well,
How does your organization, what's your org chart as far as within the city, county, state? Where does
yeah.
the information?
Again, so that our governing body, the Transportation Policy Body, is made up of elected officials from the local governments in the region. That could be either a mayor or a city council member. So, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
so
it's on that
the region
board.
being that county with the little bits of the other.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
so that'd be
Yeah.
Sedgwick, all of Sedgwick County, including Wichita, plus the part of Butler County around Andover and Rose Hill, and the part of Sumner County around Mulvane. 22 cities in total. And yes, so those local governments that contribute are the ones that contribute our governing body, and then directly reporting to them is our executive director, and below our executive director is us. And we come, and it's funded by dues and fees from the member jurisdictions, including fees related to projects that receiving federal funding through our transportation improvement program. But rather, I misrepresent that. That is how we get the local match for the federal consolidated planning grant. Yeah, keep getting that first additional one. I'll say consolidated planning grant funds from the federal government. That's 80% of our budget, but then the local funds from those fees and dues cover the necessary local match for those federal funds.
Thank
Sorry. Just to make sure I cover my bases. There are 2 seats on our governing body from KDOT. So they are represented in that way, in addition to submitting a lot of our projects, that all of their projects need to be in there, not just the local sponsored projects.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it, yes.
I think that was a lot. Wait till you see
Yeah,
what we got
wait.
for you next.
I was trying to afford what you do.
So sorry.
Before you get coming next time. You're welcome.
1,000, yeah, 37 slides?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
30.
Well, talk fast.
I don't ask a question.
Our chair stepped away, but you're good.
Okay. My name is Ryan Tyree. I'm with the Housing and Community Services Department. I'm a management analyst with our department. And tonight, we have a presentation for you. Steve Burt is our assistant director. He's also hanging out over here. Today, we're gonna talk about the 2025 to 2026 annual action plan. Becca, are you the official slide?
Yes.
So just to give you a little background, City receives an annual allocation of funds for community development activities from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Funded activities aligned to the city's goal of creating a livable and sustainable community. And these funds are used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. So a little bit about planning documents. So if you were here last year, you may remember me coming out and talking about the consolidated plan. Every 5 years, we are required to produce a 5-year strategic plan known as the consolidated plan. That plan is used to identify community development needs, affordable housing, homeless needs, and priorities of the city within the context of current market conditions. That's every 5 years. Every single year, we are required to submit an annual action plan. That's why I'm here today. HUD requires a plan that details the projects and activities that are proposed to meet the strategic needs and goals identified in the consolidated plan. So our annual action plan has to line up with our consolidated plan. If we can't propose activities or projects in our action plan that don't tie to the consolidated plan, so they have to work together. I'll back up one quick. And these plans, they serve as the application for funding for the following grants. Community Development Block Grant, otherwise known as CDBG, which we'll be referring to throughout the rest of this presentation. Home Investment Partnership, or HOME, and Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. We live in a world of acronyms. It's just how it is. So a little breakdown real quick about each grant. CDBG is used for a wide range of community development needs. It is by far our most flexible funding source. You can use it for a variety of things. Home is used to create affordable housing for low-income households, and ESG is all about, it's used to address homelessness. Thanks. So for our annual action plan, the reason I'm here today, we are in our public comment period that began on March 28th. I'll be here at this tab and all the rest of them this month to solicit comment from the boards and from the community. The second program year action plan, which is again why I'm here today, that is due to HUD on May 15th, 2025. And it allocates funds for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. That is our program year, July 1st through June 30th. Okay, so these next 2 slides, y'all have to just bear with me. It's important, and for somebody that's doing this every day, it can get a little confusing. So just from hearing it for the first time, it might be kind of a lot. So bear with me. So in previous years, funds allocated but not yet under contracts were held open in the year allocated. We're going to do something a little bit different this year. for 2025-2026 program year. This is an attempt to ease the burden of tracking and meeting expenditure deadlines. Any funding previously allocated, the prior year resources previously allocated, we swept those up and reallocated those into the current program year as shown. So basically what that means is for CDBG, for example, we have 6 years to spend those funds. They're allocated us on a yearly basis. For example, the current program year that we're in, we have 6 years to spend out those funds. Well, sometimes we'll have funds that don't get under contract, and so those are called prior year resources. And so this year, we're taking all of our prior year resources and we're putting them into this year's action plan budget. Next. Award amounts for 2025-2026 have not yet been released. HUD has not gave us those numbers yet. And so we don't know. So in order for us to have this discussion and for the purpose of planning, we have to use our current funding amounts that we are currently getting for this program that we are in right now. And those are the numbers that you see on the screen. For our program year 2024-2025, this is what we're currently receiving. CDBG just under 3 million. Home is 1.7 million. ESG $255,000.40. Those are the allocation amounts for the actual program year. Those do not include the prior year resources that I was talking about. We're going to start with CDBG. Again, it's used for a wide range of community development needs. In order for a project or an activity to be eligible for CDBG, it must meet one of those 3 national objectives there. It must be used for eligible spending activities. At least 70% of spending must benefit low to moderate income persons. And when we talk specifically about CDBG public services, the city of Wichita is traditionally public services heavy. 30% of our award goes towards public services activities. There's a national cap of 15%, but here in the city of Wichita, we're actually grandfathered in at that 1.1 million. So we have a lot of dollars that can go towards public services, which is great. So we're gonna start with CDBG infrastructure projects. And this is coming from those prior year resources that we're talking about. We're looking at allocating $379,000 towards infrastructure projects. Those can include, but not limited to, park improvements, bus shelters, sidewalks, street paving, and or stormwater sewage draining projects. We're looking to allocate $100,000 towards demolition and clearance. We normally contract those services through Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Development, MABCD, and that's for the use of demolition and clearance of blighted structures. Plainview Community Center, this is a District 3 deal right here, obviously. We're looking to allocate $1 million towards that project. Over $620,000 will be coming from Section 108 loans. Again, that's prior year stuff there. And a CDBG allocation of $379,075 for, like I said, a grand total of $1 million towards that community center. We're looking to allocate $1 million of CDBG money to the multi-agency center. This is funding that's carried forward into our current consolidated plan period to build non-congregate shelter on that multi-agency center site. There's a breakdown of what I just discussed with the numbers there. Next up is housing activities. We're looking to allocate a little over 1.2 million towards home repair project funds and home repair program delivery. Our home repair program is an eligible program for income eligible homeowners, and that can be for home repair projects up to $25,000. We have prior year resources, 1.4 million going towards acquisition and structural rehab. We're setting aside another $387,000 for a to be determined acquisition and rehab projects. And then $900,000 is going towards the rehab of the 12 former public housing units that we have currently. And there's just that breakdown for you. Administration, HUD allows us to allocate a certain percentage of our allocation amount to the administration, program management, and indirect costs. And that total is a little under $595,000. You'll see that $1,000, that's for fair housing training that we put aside for, we offer fair housing training at our annual housing conference, which is coming up this month on
April 16th and 17th.
April 16th and
Century
17th at Century 2.
Free to all.
Free. That's a good word, free.
What's the date on that again?
April 16th and 17th at Century 2. Jerry, I can get you more info on that.
I think our office manager used to go sit down with that.
Would be brilliant.
16th to 17th?
Yeah. Next, CDBG is public services. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a public services cap. We are right at that cap. It's $1.1 million. Those dollars go towards Housing First program delivery. That's our staff member in our department that administers the Housing First program. $475,000 of that goes to subrecipients. There's the breakdown of all the 8 local subrecipients we have that's receiving that funding. Those are determined through the GRC Grants Review Committee. They met last spring. Jerry was on that board. Thank you for that service, Jerry, by the way. An RFP goes out, the Grants Review Committee convenes, and they discuss who should get that funding. So those were the allocation amounts for each of those. Office of Community Services, $385,000. That goes towards 3 CSRs, Atwater, Colvin, and Evergreen, and their administrative assistants. $200,000 is going to the Way to Work program. That is our youth employment program that we offer every single summer for kids ages 14 through 17. We actually find them jobs throughout the city. A lot of them work in city departments every summer, and so $200,000 is going towards that program. There's that breakdown for you. Lastly, for CDBG, we have CDBG CV. This is leftover funding that we had from our coronavirus money that we got to help with the COVID-19 pandemic. We've decided we're looking to allocate that $594,000 and change there towards homeless activity services. You'll see there first to administration and this indirect costs, a little over $100,000 to actually run the program. And then rapid rehousing, $108,000. Care coordination teams, $200,000. And then encampment closure supplies and activities, $20,000. Moving kits, beds, supplies for the homeless, $30,000. And HMIS special reports, equipment, software, $45,000. Let's break down. Next, we will move to home, the home program. The home program is used to create or fund affordable housing for low to moderate income households. All funds that we talked about earlier that were in previous years that were allocated but not under contract, we have swept those for reallocation. And this is where I need to admit a mistake. I got too quick to hit the submit button to Becca for this presentation. That number should be a different number. That is actually $11 million there. Quite a big change there. $11,123,365.60. That should be in your agenda report, by the way, too. I meant to mention that as well. That agenda report follows along pretty good. There's a lot of detail in there as well. So my apologies for that, yes. For the home program, again, with Sangamon CDBG Home, our HUD allows us to allocate a certain percentage towards administration and indirect charges. So you can see those totals there. 30,000 home duplex engagements and, home ownership down payment assistance, 1.3 million. Multi-family rental rehab projects, we're looking to allocate almost 1.6 million towards that. TBRA, 1.7 million. And the home art program, well, 4.6 million, and that's for the development of 25 units of non-congregate shelter and supportive services. Next for home, we have the home housing development loan program. It's a little over $1.6 million there. Those funds are used by nonprofit and for-profit developers. That's specifically for the development of affordable housing. That could be rental or home buyer units, including rehab and new construction. We have to allocate 15% for CHODOs. That's set aside is managed by within the HDLP. We have an affordable housing review board that looks at the applications as well for all those potential projects. And we talked about CHODOs, or I mentioned CHODOs, but there's the requirements to be a CHODO here. Currently, in the past, we've worked with, Minot Housing has been a CHODO, Power, CDC, Jacobs Ladder, just to name a few. And there's your home allocations. Next, we have our emergency solutions grants, and this is used to address homelessness. Services are what we can use ESG for: homeless services, homeless prevention, rapid rehousing. Homeless services that include shelter operations, outreach, essential services, homeless prevention, the community utility assistance for families and individuals in immediate danger of homelessness, and then rapid rehousing that provides short-term rent and utility assistance for homeless persons. 50,000 is going. We're looking to allocate 50,000 towards homeless prevention. Again, kind of like the public services that I mentioned earlier. Back in the spring, we had an RFP process for our homeless prevention dollars. Catholic Charity St. Anthony's Family Shelter was chosen to administer that program. However, they are not going to continue that for 25-26. So just brand new within our department, we will conduct a pilot program. That's going to be targeting households that are currently receiving rental assistance for persons coming from homelessness, or households who have exited such programs in the past 2 years. So for 25-26, that 50,000 in homeless prevention will be for that pilot program. $157,115 is going towards encampments and unsheltered coordination. That funding is going to go towards the staff costs for engaging persons in encampments and coordinating resources and service providers. A little over 35,000 is going for rapid rehousing. That funding is to be made available for rent and utility assistance for literally homeless persons. That is to enable them to move into permanent housing. And ESG program administration, $19,639. And there's your breakdown. Important dates and next steps. Public comment period, March 28th, 2025. That is an impossible date. That needs to be updated. Sorry about that. That should say May 5th, 2025. Again, my apologies. That's our public comment period. I'm hitting up the DAB tonight, and then April 7th, DAB's public hearing will take place at City Council on May 6th, 2025. Hopefully council approval on May 6th and submission. We got this submitted to HUD May 15th, 2025. Comments can be provided. That's what we're recommending, is that any comments or feedbacks given to us After tonight, if you think of anything else, you can email me, atyree@wichita.gov. You can call me. Andrew is my city name, by the way. I go by Ryan, but Andrew is my email, and that's again my city name. So, you can call me, and you can actually send me a letter too if you want to. That's my address. And then the full draft, the full thing, the full plan is found at that link. It's on our website as well. Okay, that was a lot to roll through. Any questions, any comments? We'll be happy to take those. Glad Steve's here so he can maybe help me.
Over here, question.
I have a question about the summer youth. Program, approximately how many kids?
175?
175?
Yep. It's a really awesome program. So I look forward to it every year.
We've allocated $100,000 for demolition insurance. What's the average cost of a demolition?
Ooh.
I'm just wondering how many,
I don't have it.
how many homes can be done for
Well, I know,
100,000? Is that a reasonable amount of money?
I do
It
know
seems like-
in program year 23-24, we had allocated, I believe, 50,000 towards that in that program year, and there was 9 demos that occurred that year. That was, I do know that, I remember that.
They've gone through the process through MACPD and it's all been determined through there that needs to come down. They use that funding to destroy the building.
Yeah.
And I know MABCD is always saying, we don't have enough funding to do all the housing.
Well, what they're talking about, that was the first couple of years I was on council, and it'd get about July. And we would run out of funding for demo. Now we usually get to about November. So we're able to adequately get to it. I don't think that counts emergency demos though. I think that's a,
Emergency demos have their own budget.
yeah.
Demos also vary a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I was asking for just kind of a round for. And then on the CDBG, what do you guys? Infrastructure projects, prior year resources, 379,000. Funding carried forward. So has that 379 been allocated towards any specific projects at this point?
Let's see, go back to that slide.
And it's slide 10. And
So
my
if I
thing.
could go to, go back to the, I'm sorry,
No, no problem.
Go back to that funding breakdown slide.
Only salary, that's all of this number.
No,
Yeah.
so I don't wanna get in that.
No.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah. So, Midtown
Okay.
Lighting, Ash Park, working the first, Ash Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just was saying if that was open funding, if there would be a way to do some kind of grant program for seniors, fixed income and low income on sidewalk replacement. Kind of following up on what Beth Rush was going over a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Jerry was on this board last year. I don't think you're wanting to serve again this year, if I remember.
Come on, Jerry.
It's intense.
Yeah, but there is, one appointee from each staff. So last year, I think Jerry got voluntold.
Yeah.
But if you're interested in serving on that this year, definitely, when does that come up for the?
I have to double check for sure, but that process will probably be starting like late this year.
Yeah, so
We'll have to start. We'll see.
So when it comes up again, yeah, if you're wanting to volunteer and advocate for that, it goes to them, they come back with the recommendations. So we, as a city officials, don't have a whole lot of power to necessarily insert things in that, but love to have you advocate for it.
We'll see.
Big business, small business, they're all involved in it, it's pretty much. I have a question on the home here about the for-profit, non-for-profit. Can Hilltop Manor Mutual Housing, they do that, get grants, to do that stuff?
Which one would that be?
This here, just above the C, HDO, it said,
HDLP?
just above that. Funds used for nonprofit or for profit developers.
Yeah, so, there's an application process on our website, so if there's any, like, developers that are looking to develop, I mean, that's what they would have to do.
Can we develop it ourselves?
You have to be, on those, you have to,
We have like 20 empty units right now that can be rehabbed. And it takes significant funds to do that. One way we're trying to put money is to raise our association fees to do so. And then we have to have manpower to do so. If we had some extra money, we could jump on that, which also bring in more money. Takes money to make.
Let's connect Tim through Sally to some of our developer friends and run that rabbit trail. Because there may
Come to our
be,
meeting as well.
there may
Talk
be
to our board.
something.
They can talk to our board, that'd be really grateful, get other people on the same page. 'Cause I have a hard time translating everything to them and, sometimes I'm up against the wall. If they could hear the same things I'm talking about, they might be more open.
Yeah, I think so, Jerry.
Huh?
I think so.
We just need the money, we need the manpower and,
Jerry,
We need to get on
yeah,
That'd be a great resource.
I think that's your information.
Dave Clark, he's one of our board members as well. That's why I'm here. To grab this stuff.
Okay,
Right.
any other questions? In the public, you too? Anything else, Mike?
No, thank you guys for coming and sticking through it. This is by far the most complicated department in the city, especially trying to deal with a lot of the red tape and everything that comes down from HUD. So, and he's not lying when we talk about Sally and everything trapped inside her head. She's brilliant, she's great, she's energetic, but I do not envy you guys one single bit for all you guys do for us at the city. So thank you guys for what you do.
Do you want to say, this presentation has happened 4 times since I started at the city, and this was the clearest
Oh, yeah.
I've ever
Oh, yeah.
done. I had
Good
very
job,
good
Rose.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understood what was happening. So yeah, this is all out.
This is the fourth time you've heard it.
Maybe.
I'd like, yeah, are you gonna make a few comments, Mike?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thank you. That was a few, wasn't it?
That,
You said, yeah, that was a few.
yeah, I'm good. You know.
Some of the chairs kicked you down.
Oh.
He said you had a few words, you're done.
Oh, sold, I'm out of here, Mike. Yeah, I mean, you guys are here, was this 2 hours now? So this is about a fifth of a city council meeting, so you guys are good. I can keep you a little longer, I think. Next Saturday at the Christian Faith Center off of South or Pawnee over here, East Pawnee, will be our next district breakfast, 9:30, I believe.
Yes.
Right? This time, we're gonna have emergency management services come in and talk about disaster response. I thought it was a pretty apt time of the year to be able to talk about this, tornadoes and whatnot with the weather. So they're gonna come in and give a presentation. What can we do in our own neighborhoods? What can we do in our own homes to keep us safe? And they're gonna give a breakdown. I got a tour of the emergency management system for the whole county not too long ago. It's pretty impressive. It's a building downtown that can survive an F5 tornado. They have their own backup generators there. They have a separate space for us to actually hold like city council meetings in case something happens to the building downtown. It's really neat. It's gonna be a lot of good information. As always, it's $5 if you wanna come. Don't worry if you can't pay. I usually throw a little bit of money in there, so everybody come on down. You're all welcome. Always like to have as big a crowd out there as we can. April 18th, 10 o'clock to 6 p.m. at the Advanced Learning Library. We will be having a Nader. 28th, I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
No
The
worries.
28th, a Monday.
The 18th.
It's one of those days. The 28th at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. down at the Learning Library downtown. neighborhood leadership conference. We're gonna be communicating and trying to bring in a lot of neighborhood association leaders, a lot of people that are interested in getting their neighborhood association up again. Schweider, we've been reaching out to members of Schweider, about coming in and Schweider East. They in fact are meeting currently with, Sunnyside. I'm hopping in on Sunnyside Neighborhood Association meetings. And those are the first Tuesday of every month, so reach out to me if you'd like the time, I think it's 6 o'clock. I can't remember the church's name, but it's right there. But also we're trying to help East Mount Vernon if we can, Linwood and South Broadway, try and get their neighborhood associations going again. We welcome everybody to come, everybody can have input. Again, we want to concentrate on the neighborhood association leaders, but, just everybody come and just have some conversations. We will have some people leading some courses about, how do we get the youth out? That's one thing we see in our neighborhood associations. Maybe get some feedback from you guys as to what you want to see. I know with the strain that we have on our CP officers that Captain Beard has talked about earlier, sometimes it's a little harder to contact our CP officers nowadays. So maybe we come up with a process to make sure to get that information to the neighborhood associations. So it's gonna be a number of things. Please come down. Becca's been working her tail off. This is another big stressful thing that we've heaped upon her, so.
One's fun.
This one's fun. Okay, well, we'll plan for a monthly meeting then with her, and it's so much fun.
Okay.
But yes, please come on down. We're gonna be advertising it as well. This is a citywide thing. So we hope to have a lot of feedback, and also talk about what works with some neighborhood associations. Every neighborhood's different, every demographic's different, but there's a lot of neighborhood associations here where we have plenty of attendees. Hopefully we get more people wanting to serve in leadership there. But then we also have some really big neighborhood associations, and I go to the meetings and there's 4 people there. So what can we do to get people back out to the neighborhood associations? If you saw it in the news, we did start the process to potentially list the Crown Uptown on the historic preservation. This is the local board. This is not state or national, which has additional requirements. What this would mean is in case the owner wants to demo the Crown, they would have to go through extra steps of going through the historic preservation board. And regardless of what the recommendations from the board are, this still comes back to council for us to okay a demo. This is a little weird territory. We do have this set up this way for a reason, some things like this. I know there's a lot of people who have reached out with concerns about property rights, and I respect that. And no decision has been made yet, but we are going through the process to see what the options are in order to potentially list the building. And again, limited extra protections there, but I think most of us here do feel kind of a sense of how vital the Crown really has been to the identity of Wichita in the past. And so we want to make sure that we also allow time for cooler heads to prevail. Maybe there are some things we can look at to work with the owner of the Crown, but it's been a pretty contentious relationship thus.
Has he responded?
Sometimes.
Can he still sell it?
He can still sell it.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I saw an interview with him and that's what he says he's had interest. From
He
people.
has, there's been a number of people, a number of his neighbors who have reached out wanting to purchase the building and keep it as it is. And again, the whole issue that led to this was the number of parking spots surrounding the Crown Uptown. I think the current capacity is around 800 and he wanted it to go up to 2,000. So 2.5 times what the current parking is. If you guys have been to Crown Uptown, you are parking for the most part in the middle of the neighborhood. And then to add an extra couple of hundred cars there for that as well, it does become a safety issue. So that's why we deny the original request to add additional parking and just, yeah, like I said, you guys all watched it. It was pretty
Cash
contentious.
opportunity kind of to the Orpheum goes dark June first.
Yeah,
So we're gonna be dead for a year, so he'll have.
you'll have, be able to pick up some extra business there, yeah. Gun locks. We have lost 2 children here in the last 2 months to, shootings because people are not storing their guns correctly. A 7-year-old child and a 1-year-old child. I'm a gun owner. I try to make sure that I keep my guns put away, that they're safe, unloaded. You know, if you break into my house, honestly, I shouldn't say this in public. It'll take me a couple of minutes to get everything ready, but when you have children around the house especially, it's of the utmost importance. And this is not something we can take back. This isn't an oops, we'll fix it later. This is permanent when this happens. If you have firearms and you're concerned about this, WPD will work to get you, locks.
Patrol East gave me 2 free ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just walk up there and ask it, no questions asked, and hand it to you.
Yep, spread the word to your friends. It's, again, the toughest days of my life in this job have been the days that we lose children like this. And just to have 2 right off the bat, and it contributes to our murder rate as well. So when you see the murder rate's gone up, this is part of that. The murder rate hasn't. The murder rate's actually been about half of what it was this time last year. But, you know, it's gonna heat up here before too long. But again, the safety of our children needs to be paramount first in our mind. So please, again, spread that word. Hotels and motels, I don't know if I talked about this last time, but we are gonna have a workshop on potentially permitting, hotels and motels and also banning hourly rates. They don't necessarily advertise it along the Broadway corridor, but we know that they do have hourly rates there. And we do know what goes on at a lot of these motels and hotels, to your point earlier. So we are gonna look at that. I think it's gonna be the end of May is when that workshop happens. We give our input, we come back, a couple of weeks later with an ordinance. This has been spreading in popularity as well because it's not just our district anymore. This is also happening on West Kellogg, if we remember the issues we had there. This is happening on North Broadway as well. So it's really getting into all areas of our city. So I am pushing that, and again, I think that'll be probably the end of May when we hear that workshop. But please give us feedback, watch this, tell what's going on in our neighborhoods, make sure the rest of council knows what's going on our side of town, and that we want to see action on those items if that's how you feel about it. But please reach out and share your thoughts with the rest of council, whatever. Earth Day, April 27th. They will be celebrating Earth Day out at Clap Park. I don't believe they have a time yet, but we're gonna have some city staff out there also talking about water reuse, drought restrictions. Hopefully we have good weather there. It'll be right around the clubhouse there in Clap Park again. So this is a good year for it to come down to us. I can't wait to see it. It's always a good time, you know, out there dancing with the trees in the middle of the fields. So everybody, please, again, we'll post this as well. We don't have the time yet, but I'd love to see everybody out there. We did have active shooter drills where we were participating with WPD, the fire department, the sheriff's department, EMS, emergency response teams. It was at Century 2 just a couple of weeks ago. A lot of great progress is being done on that. One of the things I've personally been pushing, it was another one of the worst moments of my life. It was 2 minutes. That was about 3 months in on council, and we get a knock on the door, a meeting with the city manager, and we get the reports. It was a hoax, but 24 kids shot at North High, 2 kids running around with rifles in there. Police they're in pursuit. They're on their way there right now. That gave me a lot of positive thing. You know, there's not a lot we can do once it happens, but we can prepare. And Chief Sullivan has dealt with this in Philadelphia. He led a lot of the response teams there. So he's a great expert at this. We're continuing to work with the fire department as well. Any of the shortcomings we have, but we are really concentrating and working on making sure that our active shooter responses are appropriate and timely. And we're doing what we can, also working with the school district about making sure we have access. I can't get too far into this, but making sure that we have all the plans with the school district as well. We have 2 more openings here on DAB, and we have a handful of applicants. So here, before the next time, we will have those 2 positions filled. But I do also have 3 other boards that are open. CRB, which is a citizen review board that oversees police discipline. You can go back and look at the discipline of officers, make sure that you felt things were appropriately followed, our procedures, when looking at some of this. And also they do some more insight as far as some of our real-time crime prevention programs as well. So that is one opening that we have. The Housing Review Board, which we referred to earlier today, they do like to have somebody with some sort of real estate background that can serve on this board. So if that's another board that you guys are interested in, please look it up and check out the description and let me know. And DICREP, the Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Advisory Board. So if any of those boards appeal to you, please reach out. Let me know. I'd like to have another full board. I did there for just like a 2-month period. The first time I actually got all the slots filled, and then we had a couple of resignations, and it's like, oh, start all over again. But for the most part, most of the other boards are full. So.
As a quick reminder, most citizens are only allowed to serve on 1 board at a time. As staff members, you are allowed to serve on 2.
So DAB and the extra.
Yes.
We do need to have a discussion about chair. This is the 1-year anniversary. So we will be looking, and we can put this discussion off until next meeting if you guys want. As far as voting and naming a new chair, Mike's essentially been doing the job here the last couple of weeks or past couple of meetings. So.
Yeah, I'm the assistant.
So we'd be looking for chair and vice chair. Again, if you guys, we can have a discussion right now real quick. Do you want to vote tonight, or do you guys want to vote next meeting?
Next week.
Okay.
Next week.
And look at it, if you don't have experience in public speaking, it's a great way to learn the rules and regulations. And we always have somebody that can back you up if you can't be here. Yeah, but it's a learning experience, it really is.
Yeah, so think about it if you guys want to throw your hat in the ring for it.
Yeah, John.
I will not be here next month. I will be floating somewhere.
That's a bad position to be in. That's how the last.
I know, because I end up on a lot of stuff because I'm not in the room.
Like that's how Jerry got stuck with something. That's how our last chair got nominated. Be careful of that.
I know, I should have just not said anything. Well, you guys will know next month then.
The city manager did put out his letter talking about retirement today, effective at the end of the year. I do thank him for his service. I'll just be straight honest with you. This is maybe not the most politically smart move to make. He gets a lot of gruff for decisions that should fall on council. He takes a lot of arrows. Ultimately, I do have a plaque on my desk from the Truman Museum. It's pretty famous, the buck stops here. And I keep that there for a reason, because that's, as elected, that's how we should operate. We should take that accountability. It's not always our fault, but we do need to take that accountability and do what we can to correct situations. So he does get a lot of gruff for things that, again, fall on council, fall on us as electeds. He's done a pretty good job over 16 years. It's left quite a mark on the city, but now it is time to move on. And so we are developing a process. We'll probably reach out and have another company come in and do kind of the preliminary process as far as identifying possible suitors for the job. So it will be hopefully here in a couple of months long. We will be engaging in a lot of public discussion, trying to have the candidates out in front of you guys, so that way you guys can have a chance to grill them, have a chance to really get to know them, have some feedback. So we're developing that process right now, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows the public will be central to this decision as well, as far as getting them out there so that way they can answer questions that you might.
Is there any chance you get the candidates to come to DAB meetings?
I don't know about that. That's gonna be a tough one there. Cause they're gonna have a bunch of one-on-one meetings with council members, a couple of public engagement opportunities, and who knows how many candidates there might be. I mean, we can look into that, and consider that, but we'll see what that looks like.
Just a thought.
No, I
You
hear.
might be able to convince them to put one of the public engagements further south, though. They do tend to have them all pretty far north.
Right,
That's probably an easier reach than DAB meetings.
yeah, and from what I remember, or what I've kind of discovered over the past couple of days, I think they maybe had one at Century 2 when Bob was hired 16 or 17 years ago. So I'd like to have more than one. We did have one for the police chiefs when they were in. People got to ask questions and then also got to write questions out. So again, public engagement, we want to make sure that you guys have a voice in this. So we're going to work to make sure that that's definitely a vital part of the process coming. So with that, I believe that's really all I have. So anybody has questions or comments?
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Before you make that motion,
Becca does have one thing, or
yes, just one. We will be doing DAB training again this year. It will look a little different though. We've been asked to standardize across the city. A lot of DABs weren't having a training at all, so we're doing very different things. I've been one of the people in charge of that project, so we will be meeting as 5 districts. There's one district that still wants to do it separately, just the same thing at a different time. And it will be all together, so you get to mix with other DAB members and get to see what's going on in other districts and how they might be doing things differently, that you might like or dislike. But we will be holding that on Saturday, May 31st. It will be 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at City Hall. You will get a formal email about that as well. We strongly ask that you attend. If you are unable to attend, that happens. You'll just have a one-on-one with your CSR, so in this case me, to go over any data and information you may have missed.
Becca, you have to know who's not participating.
District 1.
Okay.
But they've been the longest standing district that's done a DAB training and is the basis for several of our other DAB trainings. So they are kind of the gold standard. If they really need to be special, so their attempt at pretending they're number 1, they know they're not. It's fine.
You will email that to us?
I will email that to you immediately. Well, I said immediately. Tomorrow, yes. I don't intend to send any emails tonight.
And we just RSVP on there.
Now you are welcome to adjourn.
Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Better not.
no nays? Come on, no nays?
Pass the name tags down. Yeah, there's it.
Oh,
Back to the police chief captain, his name is Beard.
Chad Beard, yes. I will connect him with a couple of you. So
I will report to our meeting here. I said my address showed up on that thing. I said, oh. I'm not one to see.
I'm not too far from you there, Jeremy.